how do we modify club for our Gen Z audience? So what I'm going to do is we're going to review and go talk about some of the characteristics of Gen Z, and then the consideration that pairs up with that. All right. So we'll start with this. Gen Z, we know, moves quickly. Part of that is their relationship with technology. If you ever watched them on their phone, they move fast between conversations, between apps, those kinds of things. They're just constantly moving. They take in lots of information and filter it very, very, very quickly to figure out if they're going to pay attention or not. However, they don't take a lot of time to process. So they're doing it quickly, not thoroughly very much. And they begin a lot of thoughts and don't close those thoughts. So they're constantly beginning thoughts in their head, beginning conversations in their head, but they don't often close that loop. And so one of the ways they best process is through conversation. This has been scientifically proven for this generation. They process best through conversation, which thank the Lord that someone created Cabin Time however many years ago. So here's the consideration number one, an informal cabin time at club. This used to be a thing that was coached in wildlife more often, and I have done it in wildlife. And I am saying, what if we considered doing this on some scale in Young Life? And I have done it in a couple clubs in Young Life when we have like lunch clubs and things like that. So here's what it looks like. Circle up with a leader. This can also help leaders sit near kids at club. It maybe helps leaders sit next to quote unquote their kids at club so that they make sure that that cabin time group is sitting together at club, a little bit like camp. I do this in wildlife often in Young Life. Right before the club talk, I'll say, raise your hand if you cannot reach out and touch a leader right now. Because we've all watched club where leaders are doing stuff and then they end up standing on the sides or in the back, or they're coming in later because they're changing out of a skit outfit. And this just removes that discomfort they may have by coming in and sitting down with kids by just saying, raise your hand if you can't touch a leader. And then leaders come in, they sit down with those kids, or they move. If leaders are clumped up, they'll go around because kids are getting used to the idea of, yes, I need to be close to a leader. I would do a content question first, not an icebreaker. So it's reversed from a normal cabin time. And the reason is this: the club talk sets a mood. We'll go straight into the conversation. Then the icebreaker helps us go back into that post-club contact work hangout time. So instead of going content from this club talk and then icebreaker, and then having to wrangle back into a club talk content, it's saying club talk content into this more serious conversation. And then you can also gauge on when people are kind of done with their content processing, because they're going into icebreaker stuff, and that's less destructive when you have a large room of little cabin times in the middle of there. Keep the questions absolutely simple. Maybe one content question, one icebreaker. So it's like, hey, what's something new you heard tonight? What's something that you like that Scott said? Very simple, not deep. This is not meant for like visceral catharsis in the middle of club. This is helping them just stop, think about what they heard, process it. It is also a tool you can use to help develop student leaders or junior leaders if you do not have a lot of adults at club, if you want to keep groups smaller, if the questions are not as deep and are easily facilitated, we can help our junior leaders start to grow in their leadership by helping them take a group of freshmen, 7th graders, and walk through that with them. So that's club consideration number one, cabin time at club. Here's our next thing. Another set of Gen Z characteristics, their need for safety. They live in a world where cameras are always on them. They can, their moments can be recorded, shared, posted, reshared, all before a kid sits down from a game. We also know that they are extremely lonely and isolated. That's all over research, and that they have high levels of anxiety. So club consideration number two, create smaller groups within the larger group at club. We've been taught bigger is better when it comes to club, right? Like measure those numbers. Oh, I had 70 kids at club. Yeah. Oh, I only had 25. So these number things have been really driven into us as what success is. But what we now need to do is we need to help kids navigate the craziness of the large club. I'm sure many of you have been at club and watched kids come in, see the group, not see their friends, and immediately retreat into their phone, go into a corner. Sometimes I've seen with wildlife, they'll like text their mom and be like, can you come back and pick me up? They just don't know how to go out and engage with the big group. And so creating like non-anxiety ridden ways for them to engage in smaller groups helps navigate the bigger group. Here's what I mean. So before club, there could be multiple stations that kids can walk up to and join. So it might be some guys are playing basketball. We could have Foursquare, a Bop It going around. Remember that 80s game Sign In, like just the lights up that beeps, like something as simple as that, because these are things you can watch and still be a part of it and not have to play and be in it, but it's really easy to jump in. It's really easy to jump into a Just Dance video or have it playing in the background. That probably is more wildlife friendly than young life friendly. A game of Jenga, karaoke, as we know, Johnny from at Lost Canadian, like high school kids love karaoke in a very, very weird way. But all those things, what they do is they allow someone to walk in, watch, engage. If they're not comfortable enough to jump into the activity, they can at least be a part of the activity, and it gives multiple places instead of what your typical high school party of just people standing around and you got to find the right group to go in and talk to. It also helps leaders facilitate those smaller things and engage with kids on a smaller way, because we also know some of our leaders are scared of trying to walk up to kids and talk to them. So that's one way. During club, another way to do that is to have teams at club. There's something we did. We called it Wild Wars, or around your mascot, Titan Games, Battle of the Wolves, whatever it is, that for club, for a couple months, we had teams in our club, and leaders are assigned to those teams. And then when kids arrive at club, they're assigned to a team. So Johnny's new. Johnny, welcome. You're on the green team. Go see Scott. He's your green team captain. He's going to get you all set up. And we've got green paint and green duct tape and green, wigs and hairspray. And when you arrive, you were on that team, and we had to find friends together. Like, okay, you all are on the red team, and helped people when they walked in. This is really good for the beginning of the school year. And it's really good for leading up to camp, because there's something about coming in and being on a smaller group of people. It was clarity for leaders and for kids. These are just two examples, but this whole thing of dropping kids into a room of a bunch of people and they can navigate on their own, I'm not sure that they can do that as much anymore, which is why we see so many kids on their phones back there. Okay, this is the third consideration with the same group of characteristics, and then we're going to pause for a little conversation. Consideration number 3, which some of you heard me see this before, is consider partnering kids and leaders together for upfront games. Then as a duo, or if you have a leader, even 2 kids, they can decide together who has the messier, crazier, or more embarrassing role. If you've got shaving cream and you're throwing cheese puffs at it, sometimes the kid wants to be the person with the shaving cream on, and sometimes they don't. So you guys can decide that together, which is a very, very cool relationship for the leader and kid to be engaged with on that game. What we would do in club, we would choose the leaders for the game first when we're going over our pre-club rundown and say, okay, Jim, you're gonna be in the game, so is Stephanie, and so is CJ. And then we would say, when we called you up, the instruction was bring a kid with you. So they're looking around next to them and inviting a kid to come with them. And we've done this at camp too. It's kind of fun to watch from the front, because if a kid doesn't want to and they say no, they just turn to another kid and are like, okay, they don't want to, do you want to come with me? Instead of you on the front being like, oh, Scott doesn't want to come. Does anyone else want to come instead of Scott? So this made it much more manageable for kids and leaders to do it. And then it created that shared experience with the leader and kid up front in a way that was safer for the kid and really a lot more fun for both of them. So I'm going to pause here and ask this question. Which of these considerations, the first, the cabin time, creating smaller groups in the big one, doing games up front with leaders, which one interests you most and why? Last consideration for more conversation is consideration 4, which I know we've all thought about, to tech or not to tech. All right, this is one of the big things we're trying to figure out, I think, in general. We know that Gen Z are digital natives. We know smartphones are actually an extension of who they are, and for some, it's closer tied to their identity than others. Social media does give the impression of interaction, but it's not actually interaction, so it's weird. It actually leads to more loneliness. It's a weird, like, the way it all connects together. How do we adapt so we aren't quote unquote left behind? That's for us as Young Life going, if technology is moving and we don't engage with it, how do we engage with it so that we're not left behind in a tech-driven world? So the question is, do we lean in to the technology, or do we try to pull kids out of the technology into face-to-face relationships. So we're going to talk about both sides, all right? The first is to tech. So many kids, many Gen Z, much of Gen Z feels more comfortable communicating digitally through a phone than in person. That's just who they are. So live streaming includes kids that have too much anxiety to come into club. I think some of us have seen that in our campaigners over Zoom. Is kids can come in, they can turn off their video and they can turn off their microphone and they can come, but they may not be as courageous to drive to someone's house or somewhere to go to campaigners. Instagrammable or shareable backgrounds and moments are a big deal. So it's not enough just to have the experience, I have to let everyone else know that I had this experience. Or to include games that allow kids to use their phones so that at least their phones are keeping them engaged with what's going on. So these are some ways that we have done this. Like I've done an Instagrammable background. Some people have painted walls in their club room if they can. So that's a shareable thing, or they have different backgrounds for different themes of the club so that it's a place that draws in that technology. Here, this is pure Tanita brainstorming. This is from nobody else except for thinking about how club has been the last few months and going, what if we considered assigning 1 or 2 quote unquote digital leaders? So they were assigned, if you're gonna live stream club, they're assigned to specifically interact with those who are live streaming. They're keeping track of who's logging on, who's logging off. They can ask cabin time questions and interactive questions. They can do trivia through the live stream, but really they're keeping track of who they're interacting with and they can follow up with those kids individually. So instead of a passive, I'm gonna maybe like walk on the live stream, that we're actually using that as a vehicle to minister to kids and know them individually. So they see kids interacting and they pursue those kids as a part of ministry. So these are just ideas of, okay, here's how people have leaned into technology, where we are leaning into technology, and there's just a couple examples. Not to tech is the other conversation that we're having, and we had this, by the way, in our area a year ago and could not land in the same spot. So these are just hard conversations. Gen Z is absolutely looking for in-person experiences that cannot be replicated online. So what can I only experience when I'm there that I won't experience by just watching it? You know, like it's been interesting watching this Hamilton phenomenon of going, it used to be you could only go and see it on the stage. Well, now I can watch it on my TV. Do I want to go see it on the stage now? Some people want to see it more. Some people go, I've seen it, I don't need to go. So there is a specific part of Young Life that we have held on to for a long time. Of when I was trained, it was always do something in club that makes people say, I can't believe they just did that. That was part of my training. One thing, you just needed one thing. When you're streaming that, it can be difficult to go, do people, are they drawing in or are they like, I don't need to go, I can watch it on my phone. It can also potentially create the negative side of FOMO. So instead of going, I think what we hope is look at what's going on, come to it, join us. And what's happened, and I've heard this from kids too, when we post pictures or live stream, they go, yeah, I wanted to go, but no one invited me. I was left out. Even though, like, how many of you have heard that from a kid, by the way? Like, no one invited me. And we're like, you're always invited, everyone's invited. But there is a piece of like, oh, I was left out of this. And when I see this on social media has been tied to loneliness, depression, and isolation. So like, how much do we want to engage in something that is perpetrating that in our kids? And I have had this to not tech, to prevent digital bullying at club. If you don't think this is happening, you're missing it. There are absolutely kids bullying one another in club through text messages. Like that is absolutely happening. Probably more often with girls, but it is happening at club because they can do it in front of our eyes or right in front of us, and we can't see it. Some other reasons not to tech, they can do club with the freedom of not having cameras on them. It prevents them from hiding in their phones, and it promotes in-person interaction. Some clubs have opted to do a cell phone raffle, where if you turn in your cell phone, you get a ticket and they have really, really good prizes. Or we talked about even just making it an optional phone-free zone and explaining every week at club, you know, we're choosing this to be an optional phone-free zone for these reasons. You know, we want you to be like, you can go through all the negative impacts that they complain about their phones. They're the ones that complain about it. Like, we know kids have said when they're on the way home from camp, oh man, I don't want my phone back because it's been such a great week without it. And then of course they're clamoring as soon as we hand it to them, they're like on it, you know. But that optional break, you know, is what we can explore with that too. So that's the tech or not to tech part of the conversation. That's a very brief version of the conversation. But tell me what your thoughts are on this whole thing of tech. Do we lean in? Do we lean out and try to like mitigate or minimize the use of phones in the middle of our clubs? So there's always more considerations for club. Club has been consistently modified over the years. Some of us may not remember a time when there was no themed clubs, and some of us remember that a themed club never happened. The kinds of songs we sing in club, you know, what are minutes, what are competitions, you know, what are skits versus mixers, all sorts of different things. It just has been modified over the years and is modified geographically and is modified based on what your club looks like. So we have the freedom to continue to modify club as a vehicle of sharing Christ with adolescents. You are the innovators, and every time we do something, we are learning more about what we're doing. Every club, I feel like, is an experiment, even if you've done the same thing over and over again. That week is another new experiment. So what I hope is that we all get to learn from your own considerations and your own modifications that you make. These are just some things I thought of, but I am not the resident expert on all things Gen Z when it comes to club. We're trying to figure this out together. So please experiment and tell us all what you learn when we do these kinds of things. As always, my friends, I have a lovely slide of tiny print with all the references that are on here. So if you want the PowerPoint slide so you can look these up, you can have it. So that is all for today. That's 4 considerations. Thank you for hanging out together. I hope that at least get the wheels turning for the day we do get to have in-person group clubs again, or at least, you know, helps us understand our kids and figure out how do we serve them the best way we can that expresses Christ. So this is